What is good? Welcome back to the Pop Off Podcast, a conversation show about the movie event of the year, Avatar, The Way of Water, the wettest movie that theaters have ever seen. I'm Ralph Compiano. I'm your host, and I am joined by the co-host of Rent Money, Jack Turner, aka Mr. Worldwide, posted up in Florida right now with some family, and also a gentleman who never saw the original Avatar, but said, you know what? Fuck it. It's Turner's birthday. I'm going to sit right next to him and we're going to watch Avatar The Way of Water together. Spencer Clark. Glad to have you back on the pod, Clark. It's been a little while. People have missed you. What did you think of Avatar? What was your first impression when you left the theater?
Yeah, well, first of all, pleasure to be here. My first, I won't lie to you, I walked out a little speechless. It was made eye contact with, I believe, Charlie a few times, and we were both just mystified at what we just saw. So to put it into words, magical.
It was an experience. Turner, what about you? I know that you were kind of in the same boat as me, waiting for this for 13 years. I'm not sure what your level of excitement was, but I think that like you mentioned it, you're like, hey, I want to go see Avatar for my birthday. Like, let's get tickets. Let's go see Avatar for my fucking birthday.
Yeah, I love a good blockbuster, love a good movie event, and I love building the hype around a movie too. Sometimes the hype is a part of the fun, and there was a good rollout to this. James Cameron was spitting all sorts of wild things leading up and rubbed some people the wrong way, but for me, it just got me more excited. But 3-hour movie, you can go through a large bucket of popcorn or two, even because I think there was 45 minutes of previews. They might have hit 10 movies, 10 trailers here at the beginning. Did cheap out though, got the large bucket of popcorn, so didn't go cheap on the popcorn, but I did not get a drink. And so I looked over at Spencer at one point, I'm like, yo, can I get a sip of your large pop? And he wasn't so sure.
Yeah,
He
that's an
gave me the
absurd
sip.
request.
He gave me the sip, but there was definitely a lot of hesitation. And so I left the movie thinking, wow, Spencer, is he a good friend or not? That was my takeaway.
The second that you asked me for a sip of my Coke, I gave it to you right away. And
yeah, I took one from my left. I took one from my right. I saw you guys all walking out with the large pops, and I was like, I know there's at least 2 sips for me out there.
You're leaving out the fact that I handed the empty one to you on our way out and said, fill it up with whatever soda you want.
Yeah, you did do that. That was huge. I filled it up with raspberry lemonade. He did put it in the trash for a split second. I was like, yo, can you get that?
I did pull it out of the trash can.
Just being really honest here on the pod, but raspberry lemonade, it hit on the way out. No, Ralph, takeaway, incredible movie, incredible just visual experience, and I had a lot of fun.
Nearly 3 hours and 20 minutes long, and we wanted more at the end of it. We all stood up in unison, and I think we said to each other, we're like, holy shit, like that was the world building is phenomenal. The technology is amazing. It's been 13 years, and there's a part of me that doubted it going into it, but at the same time, I was like, I had very high expectations for it, and they completely exceeded it. It was one of the most miraculous things I've ever just watched and been a part of. And I'm so glad that we did it, because it'd be weird to see that movie alone, because you might feel like a little bit sick in the head, be like, damn, I had maybe too much fun during that movie, because I see movies alone all the time. But this is a great movie to see with a big crowd on opening night. What did you guys think of the 3D? When was the last time you guys saw a 3D movie?
I'm really glad you asked. When we were walking in, Spencer and I both actually looked at each other and said, this is going to be 3D.
Yeah.
We both wore our glasses, so we were a little apprehensive.
Yep.
So it was our first time, and my first time in maybe 10 plus years going 3D. Spencer, what did you think of the experience?
I personally hate 3D. I always have. It's too distracting in my opinion. But I will say for this, I felt like it was necessary. And I actually really did enjoy myself. And that might have been less of 3D and more of just the ambiance in the air. Kind of like we are some of the first ones. And so I think that played a big factor in it too. But overall, enjoyed the 3D experience.
Yeah, the 3D was honestly, they were doing this weird thing where it was almost like there was like little floating, like little flowers or like little air bubbles in the water that were like popping up in your peripherals in the 3D. Yep. And it just made it feel very immersive, like I was in the water almost, which was a pretty neat experience. It kind of just had me melting in my seat.
I thought it was pretty weird when the Cinemark worker came and just splashed us with a bucket of water. That was actually pretty rude of them. But yeah, it is like,
I didn't love that. I got it,
You
but I
know,
didn't love it.
no, I was wondering why they had us put our phone in the plastic baggie when we walked in, but then it made a lot more sense.
like I hope you guys brought rice, dog. But no, this is like, I mean, it's just one of the most creative and like technologically advanced things ever. I saw a joke on Twitter. It's like, damn, no wonder like the last like 10 Marvel movies have sucked because all the CGI animators were working on Avatar this whole time. And I think that, you know, I see all those movies in theaters, and I'm generally pretty unimpressed by them. I think that some of them are very special to me, but this is just like a whole different level. And I want to talk about it in comparison to the first one, because I'm not sure if people have an attachment to the first one. The people that do are like really attached to it. But then like Clark's like, it didn't even occur to me to go to watch that. And I probably didn't watch it for 12 years in between seeing it in 2009 and then rewatching it this year to prepare for this. But this movie is essentially like the exact same thing plot wise. It's like
You think
structured the
so?
same, just in the essence that it's like he has to, and his family at this point, they have to adapt to like a new environment, and he has to learn all of these things. The only thing that's really missing is the romance. Like there isn't a lot of romance in this one, where that was so necessary for the first one to build between Jake Sully and Natiri. But what's your
Mhm.
diff with that?
Did you want a little more Avatar love in this? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
I
I
mean,
th-
there were some good love scenes. I think it was
sure.
different because love between two parents is going to be a little different from that original spark. You know, it was a lot more
Yep.
about like dutiful and being there for each other and working through interesting like family centric storylines and topics versus this newfound love between a outsider essentially and solely in the daughter of kind of like the head chief, right,
Yep.
of their tribe. So in that sense, it's a little different. Um, you know, I think it's a little unfair to say that it's a repeat of the first one. I think about a lot of sequels that are, I mean, we just talked about how Home Alone 2 is one of our favorite Christmas
Yeah.
movies, and that's like
Right.
a identical repeat of the first one.
Yep.
I thought there was new characters, new storylines, new challenges um,
100%.
that
It's
the
the
main characters were
formula.
facing.
The formula is
Um,
like what like they're taking from. But like, to be fair, there's no other movie like Avatar. So the fact that it was similar to the first one, it's like good. I'm
and
glad it is.
and that's where separate this from some of the Marvel movies because when you talk about blockbusters, Marvel's just going to come up. I mean,
Yeah,
that is what the blockbuster movie essentially that and some DC superhero movies have become.
100%.
And what I like about this is it's just all very original and unique, and it's just storylines and characters that I haven't seen before. And the highlights of the film are the beauty of like the motion picture direction and the animation, and not that Toby Maguire is popping up on the screen as like a callback to a former Spider-Man movie. It's you know it's a very it's its own thing, and I liked those movies and those Spider-Man movies, but it's like what pops for me is just a little different.
Well, he's like building his whole world. That's the thing. It's like he was talking all the shit leading up to the movie. Like, my dreams are better than half, like 99% of the shit that comes into the ether. And so you realize, like, while you're watching it, like, you don't really have an attachment to any of the characters too much. Like, you're not like, oh, I see myself in them. Maybe like on a very surface level idea, but like the star of the movie is James Cameron and his like vision. Like, he's inventing plants. He's like putting everybody in this water that he's obsessed with, and like he has a deep relationship with like the Mariana Trench and all this kind of stuff in real life. Clark, do you have like a favorite sequence in the movie? I mean, I know it's, you know, 100 or 200 minutes long almost, but like, is there a certain sequence, like, did you like the second act where they're like learning how to swim and like ride these fucking dolphins and whales? What was like the thing that stuck out to you?
No, I'm about that action. So probably towards
Mm-hmm.
the end, I was really into that.
Holy shit.
I think going back a little bit to your James Cameron, I think his dreams might be better than anything at this point.
He's
James
right.
Cameron's James Cameron's entering rarefied air for me. He is a director that was talking his shit like he had a bout coming up at the MGM to get people hyped up for this. And I think he's on a level right now where he's can't do any wrong for me. He can do
Right.
no wrong for me.
So like Avatar 3 opening night once again.
Yeah, I'll probably be there.
Okay, so
I-
the action sequences you mentioned, like, he is, I think he's the master of action sequences. Like, some of the slow motion shots of like her putting a spear through two dudes' chests at once, it's like, oh my god, I haven't seen anything this well executed in a long
Dude,
time.
she was so filthy from the air with those things. It was
Oh my
like
God.
if you
It was
were operating the ship, you were gonna get a sword through your stomach.
Mhm.
well, what I thought was so neat too was just like you'd have these very Animal Planet-esque like 5 minutes of scenes of them just like bonding and being with the
Right.
different animal life in Pandora. And then snap, it's like back to hardcore action. It's
Yeah.
just the juxtaposition between the two is very unique. And Ralph, I think it would be good to talk about some of the technological work and things that they had to go through over the last decade to make this movie what it is.
Sure. So I was under the impression that all of this movie was CGI. So I was like fucking amazed by that. But it turns out that they did the motion capture again, which I knew they were going to do, but they actually shoot underwater. So Kate Winslet is in this movie and she has like maybe 12 lines, one of the greatest actresses of the 21st century. And she like broke the world record for holding her breath underwater for 7.5 minutes. So
So
every sequence that we
just to
see
clarify, Ralph, I think she broke the record on set. So she
on set,
actually broke not anybody in the world, but
yeah,
she broke Tom Cruise's record from Mission Impossible. One
right.
of
That
the
feels like a
impossible.
record he's coming back for if it got done.
No,
Sounds like he's coming
100%.
back for that.
They're rewriting the script for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2 right now. But yes, so it is like very intricate work. And so when you are actually like shooting this in the motion capture underneath a water tank, I believe they shot in New Zealand, then you actually have to go and animate it after that. And so it's not just that they're animating like the actual people, but they have to animate all of these whales and all of these sharks and all this kind of stuff. And then the other thing that, I mean, we could talk about it really quick. It's kind of nerdy, but when you watch a movie or a TV show on your TV, in a movie theater, or even on TikTok, any video that you watch, everything is shot on a camera at 24 frames per second. That's the way that our brains process things. So when you shoot at 48 frames per second, things look very, very quick. And it's almost kind of hard to keep up with because our brains aren't naturally inclined to actually believe it when we see it. It's like something that just kind of washes over us. So
Are
like
you saying that James Cameron was breaking our brains?
I am literally telling you that like at Applied Art and Technology, like we talk about like sometimes experimenting with 48 frames per second, but they're like, no, that's dangerous. I don't think we can do that like on KCCI because like it might
Yeah.
break some 80-year-old's brain.
Shout out AAT.
Yeah, you know it. But it's just he's in his own world. Like I was trying to think about like the level of like director that he's at. It's like him, Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, but
Nolan.
he's made 9 movies in 40 years. Aliens, Terminator 2.
But that's like what the best directors do, man. They
Right. They
they
take their
get so
time.
locked into an idea or a movie. It's a 3 or 4 year PTA. I mean, he doesn't make movies very often. Wes Anderson. I mean, the
Quentin
best
Tarantino.
directors,
Yep.
they need to take some time to like curate their craft.
So should we talk about the larger conversation with this? Because this movie, I believe it's $140 million box office opening weekend, which is great, but it needs to get to like 1.6 billion for them to. So the circumstances are this: Avatar 3, they already shot. They shot it at the same time as Avatar 2. Now they're going to go into the post production and do all the CGI and all that kind of stuff for the next movie. But this movie has to make, I believe, 1.6 or 1.7 billion dollars just for them to give Avatar 4 and Avatar 5 a go.
Hey,
'Cause those
Ralph,
aren't set in stone yet.
not to cut you off. I mean, it did okay, domestically, but it went for 435 internationally. It just crushed
Oh,
it, crushed it in China.
see, that's where he just fucking excels. That's the number I was looking for. Because 130, I was like, I was kind of skeptical of that. But now that you're telling me, so is it 430 global?
That's what CNN's saying me, telling me. It says 7 hours ago, 435 million at the global box office.
Okay, so it's already at half of Top Gun Maverick, which is the movie I want to talk about it in comparison to, because I love that movie too. I saw that movie twice in theaters. It was an absolute blast. It's like you said, Turner, there aren't a lot of movie events anymore. Like I see movies all the time, but not a lot of them feel that special until I actually sit in it. I'm like, damn, who am I going to share this with? This is one of those movies where it's like you go see this with your family. You can see this with your 8-year-old niece. You can see this with your 55-year-old uncle, and like you're all going to get the same
Yeah.
thing out of it.
Yeah. I mean, you've been imploring us to go see Tar, right? Because movies are fun to share with other people.
Right. I mean, we don't have to talk about Tar on here. Tar's its own topic. We'll do that for our end
I
of
haven't
the year
seen Tar.
pod. When we
I
do
haven't either, dude.
the end of the year list, we'll talk about it then. But
Well,
is
Clark was
Hey,
Clark's a big Top Gun 2 guy. He's probably seen it in
yeah.
theaters as many times as anyone
it's
I know. What are your
unhealthy,
thoughts?
unhealthy. I mean, that movie's so personal to me from the first one that I can't even compare it. I would say they were probably my two favorite movie theater experiences.
And
All
like
happened in the last 6 months. Probably
okay.
ever.
Yeah, right. So that's the thing. It's like one, like the movie theaters are like getting better. Like the movie theater that we saw it in, that theater fucking rocks. It's a
It
huge
does.
screen, so loud. The speakers are amazing. There aren't any
And
glitches or anything like that. You can rely on it.
I saw something. I read about a little bit about the box office opening and stuff, and I know they have to make north of 2 bill to break even to make money on this. Um, but I also saw that they only have like 150 of those theaters that we were lucky enough to watch it in. They only have about 150 of those across the country.
Mm,
So they expect the domestic numbers to just continue to rise and rise rather than a rapid and slow,
Right.
because they expect it to be a slower grind to get people into those theaters.
It's also a 3-hour movie. You can't just you got to schedule time. You got to make time
yes.
for
You
it.
got to
So it's,
plan
you
it
know,
out.
you can't go on a whim. But while we're on this discussion, a point I wanted to bring up is who do you think the biggest star that was featured in this movie was?
From an
Actor
actual like
wise.
actor performance. So that's the thing is like when he made it originally, his idea was that between 2009 and whenever the second one would come out, which I think he probably planned for like 2016 or 2017, he wanted Sam Worthington to become like this huge actor. He wanted to make him a star, but he's blue half the movie, so like we don't really develop a relationship with him. So I'm not sure. I don't know any of the actors. I feel like I looked at Letterboxd and I looked at some of like the young actors that are in this movie. Like what else are they in? They're hardly in anything. Like the teen boys, the girl that's like the flirty like high school romance thing, which was really cute. She's not in anything. Even like the child, it's like Sigourney Weaver's playing one of these teenagers. I guess she's the star here because she's Sigourney Weaver and we have a 40-year relationship with her and I love everything that she's in. But
So this is where I want to shout out this actress. Zoe Saldana is the
Zoe
second
Saldana,
highest box office grossing movie actress of all time,
Guardians of the
behind
Galaxy.
Scarlett Johansson. She's
Yep.
11th all time, significantly ahead of Johnny Depp, not even accounting for what this movie's about to do, not even accounting for Guardians and
Yep.
not the next Guardians coming out, and not even accounting for the eventual sequels of this Avatar movies. When it's all said and done, Zoe might have the most box office numbers of all time, and I don't think she gets enough credit for that. And the funniest part is she's always playing an alien.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avatar. Those are her big box office winners, but she's also
She's
been in a
been
bunch of other
typecasted
movies
as an
well.
alien.
She literally is, and she's making bank. And
I bet she doesn't give a shit.
She's a bankable actress, I guess, leading actress. She knows which franchises are gonna go, and she just hops in and lets them ride.
I mean, can you
Who
imagine
was
how
your
lucky
favorite
her fucking
character?
husband is? Like, good God. The guy probably hasn't worked in years. Zoe Saldana, and she's gorgeous. Like when she's not blue, she's absolutely stunning. Even when she is blue. Is
Even
it
when
time
she
for
is
that?
blue, she's
Clark, is it time for that conversation?
too. I mean, at some point, it's got to come up.
All right.
Because
Would
they
you
made these avatars kind of hot.
here's the social breakout. Would you fucking Avatar? Uh I I jokingly said to Turner, I turned to him when like the 20-year-old Avatar showed up. I was like, not bad. Kind of looked like Halle Bailey a little bit, like the girl that's gonna be in the Little Mermaid movie. I was like, this shorty's like, she's not bad. But then I remembered, I'm like, they're like 8 feet tall. So one, I think I'd be intimidated by them, and two, I'm not sure if I could actually satisfy them because like I don't know if they have genitals. I'm not sure how they reproduce. I'm not sure if it's the hair thing or what.
I
But
think they
it's
just
like
tether. I think they just tether to each other.
that's it. You don't think there's some like
Probably hand stuff. Tether and hand stuff.
definitely hand stuff. We don't have to talk too much about avatars and if we want to fuck them or not.
No, I mean
because
but
we
it is a
don't. We
quick and
don't.
dry question, and we don't. Wink, wink. Um, no, I mean they made him look attractive though. They did.
James Cameron might fuck one of them. That might be the thing. It's that like he loves his creation so much that he's like, I'm just gonna make the most beautiful people ever. All right, before we get out of here, I do just want to say this movie was amazing. I'm so glad to have seen it with both of you. It's definitely one of my favorite movies of the year, which is saying a lot because I think it's been a really good year for movies, and I can't wait for the next one. And I just think it's insane that we watched a movie where a small boy or a teenage boy went inside the mouth of a whale and tethered his hair to the whale's soul. That's something that we saw, and I'm so glad to have done that with both of you.
And not only did we see it, it was borderline moving.
It was totally moving. It was like, oh my God, I wish I had this kind of relationship.
Ralph, I have this thought, and I have a question. The question for both of you is: Is Pandora Mount Rushmore fictional land,
Ooh,
fantasy
that's a
land,
great question.
universe? Is it top four?
No, maybe. I don't know. They seem like they have a lot of wonderful things there. And that's why these, humans from Earth keep going back, trying to steal everything about Pandora.
Very nutrient enriched. Yeah,
I love Hogwarts. That's always gonna be on my Mount Rushmore.
I think Hogwarts has to be.
Like, can we do like nostalgia
Lord of the
movies? Like,
Rings.
I'd love to live in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood era Hollywood. That's like so beautiful to me. Or Boogie
So like
Nights
the
era.
70s.
Yeah.
So you just
Yeah,
want to
but
be in,
like
you want to be in the 70s?
but at the same time, so with movies like that, I feel like the aesthetics are like Quentin Tarantino's aesthetics. So every conversation that I have is like written by Quentin Tarantino, which might be like too nerdy, but yeah, I think
Ralph,
Pandora is definitely up there.
it's a beautiful place. I mean, I think the fact that they make it look so like the cinematography is so good, it helps for sure.
Be a
Um,
great place to put a ton of all-inclusive resorts on.
before we go, if James Cameron
Ooh, the
was to listen to this podcast before dropping Avatar 3 and he was in the editing room chopping it up, what would be maybe 2 to 3 nitpicks that you would have about this movie? So I think we all agree it was a super, super fun movie,
Sure.
incredible theater experience, one I would highly recommend anybody to going to. But at the same time, it wasn't necessarily a perfect movie either.
Sure. He's always had issues with dialogue. It sounds like an AI wrote it. Which is like this
He might
movie
be an
has to
alien though.
this movie has to appeal to everybody. And yeah, he might be an alien. That could be part of it too. So I'd bring like a very good script writers come in and just clean up the dialogue a little bit more, make it a little bit more realistic, but still surface level enough that it appeals to everybody. My second thing would be, yeah, let's get some. I think the romance worked really well in the first one, and it had, and like you said, there's definitely romance in this, but it's more like familial versus like, I don't know, like actually like typical stereotypical romantic. The third thing would be we need some funnier jokes in here. Like all the times we laughed in the movie were like unintentional jokes. It was like when
Yeah,
the
I did
Marines were
have some
saying,
unintentional,
"Get
like that was
some,"
yeah, that was
or
like awkward or like that was
yeah,
kind of like a little. I mean, you're gonna get some of that over 3 hours, and I mean, we're
so
trying to appeal to your 11-year-old in that aspect. Like the fight scenes were pretty graphic for that, and
yes.
The guy
overall,
lost his arm.
Oh
That
my
arm
god,
scene was nuts.
unbelievable.
a guy was getting rear naked
Spoilers.
choked like 60 feet underwater.
Yeah,
I will say, I think my biggest nitpick, and it probably ties into me not seeing the first, but I just think the villain in this one is played out. I didn't love it.
sure. No more Stephen Lang.
Yeah,
I'd be fine with that. He did great
he's
in both movies. I got a little bit tired of him too.
he's very, very stereotypical. Sure, I think they're trying to make him a little bit more complex here, maybe in the third movie with his estranged son, trying
Yeah,
to play that
that
angle.
thing. Yeah, that was a
Spider.
weird side. That was a
Yeah,
weird side thing too.
I
we're definitely getting Spider in the third one. Like him
I
and
oh
didn't
yeah,
hate Spider. I didn't hate Spider. I hated the dynamic.
I think there was parts that obviously I didn't think made the most sense. Like, is Spider like on the team or is he a prisoner? I couldn't ever really figure out that dynamic.
He feels like a
I think
snake.
I think too, it felt like they glossed over like some of the other water island nations and like what happened to them because they just kind of got screwed and then we never went
torched.
back to them.
Yeah,
And then this is
Literally.
similar to like every major movie, but it's always just one that sticks out to me or I don't love is you'll see like 10 people from this tribe or this community that probably got, KO'd, killed
Mhm.
off. But there's only like real emotion tied to the forest people and like Sully's family for their one death. It's like, what happened to the rest of these people that died that have been a part of your community for like 30 years and not the kid from the family that brought all this trouble with them? Like, you would think they'd be like, okay, like we feel bad for you, but
Yeah,
you kind of brought a lot of heat on us. So I think some of those things get glossed over, but that's just part of movie magic, man. I mean, you got to be focused on the main
yeah.
family, main characters.
They only do funerals for main characters, no doubt about it. You two are main characters on this podcast, and you're both great performers. And I'd love to get dyed blue with you guys and grow some dreadlocks and swim in the depths of the ocean. So thank you guys for doing this with me. I think we're
Actually,
all in the
blessed.
4 to 4.5 to 5 star range. You guys want to designate a star ranking to this? I give it 4 stars. I'm leaning towards 4.5, kind of in that range right now.
It takes a lot to entertain me for 3 hours. So just based off that fact alone, a 4. I think I'm settling in at a 4.
And Top Gun is a 5 for you?
I mean, a 5 feels tough to give out. No, we bought a zoo, so probably 4.5.
They did buy that zoo.
I gave it a 4.5 on Letterbox. If you're listening to this now and you're a Letterbox guy or gal, if you're not, get on there. It's a great app. I'm always preaching Letterbox. Jack Turner 133. If you're trying
We'll
to look
drop it
me
in
up.
the bio of this episode. We'll drop your link.
No free promos.
I gave it a
They have
4.5.
Letterboxd.
I said, now that's a movie. James Cameron really went for it. Theater experience for sure.
Absolutely. This movie fucking rips. All right. Thank you guys for listening. You guys can listen to Jack Turner later this week on Rent Money. I'm sure we'll be dipping more into NFL and college basketball as college football
We're
season
finding our
starts
footing
slowing
right
down.
now. Just be patient with us. We're gonna come out the other side of the tunnel looking bigger and better than ever.
100%. We're going into that tunnel as humans, and we're coming out as avatars. And you can listen to Spencer Clark on his new podcast with Nick Bordenero, aka Bordy B, called Breaking Thoughts, debuting sometime in 2023. We don't know yet, but it is going to be a blast, and it's going to be very controversial, and it might get us canceled, but we'll take it one episode at a time. We will see you guys later this week. Peace out.